Imbibitor Lunae's Rerun banner is dropping alongside the Penacony update, and he's been an amazing DPS character ever since his initial release. So today, we're going to go over his banner, his kit, and his current state in the game to see if he is going to be worth pulling for. So starting out with his banner, he does have the same banner as Black Swan, so if there are specific 4-stars in here that you're looking for, the same rate up 4-stars are going to be present here as well. And for those three rate up 4-stars, firstly, we have Misha, who at the time of this recording, we don't have too much information about his kit yet outside of the version livestream. So I will be making a separate video about Misha once we get more information. But for right now, I do think that Misha is going to be a very solid ice sub DPS kind of character with a lot of utility when it comes to freezing enemies. Then on the banner, we have Tingyun, who I do think is an amazing support character option, especially for Imbibitor Lunae. I think she works pretty well, especially since she doesn't need to use her skill as frequently as maybe some other supports, which does help out Imbibitor in the long run. And then lastly, we have Guinaifen on the banner, who I do think is relatively like a sub DPS kind of option, but doesn't really have as much synergy with Imbibitor Lunae. But if you do have like a dot team, or you have some other team where she could be a bit more valuable, then I think that Guinaifen can also be a very solid option for you. So now moving on into Imbibitor Lunae's kit, he does have a very interesting kit where a lot of his value actually stems from his basic attack. So I'm going to just talk about his basic attack and skill together here because they do pretty much work together. So his skill will allow you to enhance his basic attack at the cost of more skill points. So the maximum amount of enhancements you can do is 3, which is going to cost 3 skill points. And realistically, with Imbibitor Lunae, you do want to use the maximum enhance as much as possible because that's where you're going to be getting a lot of your damage from. So just to go over the other ones really quickly. So with his regular basic attack, it's a 2-hit attack that deals 100% of his attack to a single target enemy. Then his first enhancement is Transcendence, which goes up to 260, which is a pretty big jump, and it's a 3-hit attack, which we'll go into later why it specifically says 2-hit, 3-hit, and so on for these. Then his second enhanced basic attack is Divine Spear, which deals 380% damage to the main enemy, and then also 60% to adjacent targets as well. So he starts getting some adjacent target damage as well there. And then Fulgurant Leap is the one that you should be using the most, the final enhanced basic attack, which uses a 7-hit attack to deal 500% of his attack to a single enemy, and also deals 180% to the adjacent enemies. So for adjacent enemies, that's really good because that's a 3 times boost from Divine Spear. So because of that, you do want to use the Fulgurant Leap as much as possible, so you can really be getting the most out of your damage from Imbibitor. Then for his ultimate will launch a 3-hit attack that will deal damage to the single target as well as a lesser amount of damage to the adjacent targets, And when he uses his ultimate, he gains 2 stacks of Squama Sacrosancta, and these are able to be used by Imbibitor Lunae in the place of skill points, which is extremely beneficial for him because your basic attack, if you are playing him in an optimal setup where you're using Fulgurant Leap every time, you're going to be going through a lot of skill points. And having the ultimate be able to give you a little buffer on that is extremely good. Then for his talent, which is why this is the reason why all of his attacks say the certain number of hits, is because for each hit dealt to the enemy during his attacks, he will gain 1 stack of Righteous Heart, which gives him a damage increase for the current turn, and you can stack it up to 6 times. So to get the most out of him, once again, you want to be sure that you're using Fulgurant Leap because no other attack in his kit will give you the 6 attacks that you need, the 6 hits that you need rather, to get the full damage boost from this. So you do want to be hitting that Fulgurant Leap as much as possible. And at talent level 10, you do get 10% damage per stack. So an extra 60% damage boost is pretty big for him. Then for his technique, when he uses technique, he'll enter the Leaping Dragon state for 20 seconds. And this state basically just allows him to, you know, when you attack, he dashes forward, which if he dashes into an enemy, it'll start combat. And when he does start combat in this form, or in the state rather, he will deal imaginary damage to all enemies, and he also gains a stack of Squama Sacrosancta as well, which gives you a little buffer for the start of the battle if you need to get your supports up and running, so that is also very strong for him. Then for his major traces here, his first one here, he gets 15 energy at the start of battle, which is very good for him to try to get that ultimate right away, so you can have even more of a buffer when it comes to your skill points. Then you have Aqua Rain, which gives him a 35% crowd control debuff resist, which is very good as well, because you know you don't want your DPS to be crowd control debuffed. You want them to be able to output as much damage as possible. Then for his final major trace, when you deal damage to enemies with imaginary weakness, you get an extra 24% crit damage, which is extremely good for him to just be able to output a lot more damage. So yeah, Imbibitor Lunae is, you know, very solid with this kit. You know, it works very well. But now I do want to talk about his current state in the game. So I do think pretty much for a free-to-play player, when it comes to all your 5 stars being at E0, I do think that he is easily the second best DPS in the game, the only one above him right now being Jingliu. When you get into, you know, light spenders or people who pull for Eidolon, I do think that E2 Imbibitor Lunae does soar past Seela. I mean, not Seela, for Jingliu, I mean. Because they're both better than Seela, definitely. But yeah, he soars past Jingliu just because of the action advance, and he's able to do a lot more damage, but that is at the cost of a lot more investment in him. And I do think that the biggest problem that Imbibitor Lunae has really had in terms of my experience and what I've seen of him, because I don't have him in my account, so a lot of my experience is secondhand, but a lot of the issues I see are through skill points. And you definitely can build teams that are not very as skill point dependent in order to funnel as many skill points as possible into your Imbibitor Lunae. But I do think that if you are, you know, mainly running characters or have characters in your account that use a lot of skill points, then you can definitely run into some issues with getting the Fulgurant Leap every time with him and running into some consistency issues that way. Because if you're not getting Fulgurant Leap, you're just not getting, you know, near the potential of his damage output. Now, he has definitely gotten some, you know, minor buffs here and there with, you know, new additions into the game, mainly being Ruan Mei, who is an amazing support that is not skill point hungry whatsoever. And you also have Hanya, who can restore skill points using her skill, but it's really just 1 skill point every 2 attacks you do. So it's not like the fastest thing in the world to, you know, restore skill points, but it is something. But the biggest point I want to make about his current state in the game is that his state is actually going to be changing soon because of Sparkle in second half. So I think if you are planning on pulling Sparkle as well, Imbibitor Lunae can actually be a pretty solid pickup for you, because Sparkle will be able to generate some extra skill points for you with the use of her ultimate, and that's just going to be really strong to be able to have more skill points available for Imbibitor Lunae. Depending on how often we might have to use Sparkle's skill, we'll see if there might still be some consistency issues with those two, plus maybe some SP positive or SP neutral supports and sustains. But I do think that overall, if you need a very strong DPS character on your account, or you just like an Imbibitor Lunae a lot, I do think that he could be a very solid pickup for you. Now, you might feel a little limited in team building if you don't have like an SP generator or you don't have many characters that are like SP neutral or SP positive. So definitely do keep that in mind if you are going to pull for him. But I do think that if you do have the proper characters around him to be able to allow him to use his Fulgurant Leap every time and get his maximum damage bonuses, he's an absolutely amazing damage dealer. And at that point, you know, I will very much recommend him. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. Let me know if you're going to be pulling for Imbibitor Lunae. But with that, I'm going to end it off here. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed, definitely be sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel, ring that notification bell, and I will see you all next time.